Hello, this is Fireguard, and I'm just doing an update on basically Ashes of Creation. They did the new stat balancing and how it feels. I have some PvP clips. Three things. First is I'm just going to read the patch notes word for word. If you already know what they are, you can go ahead and skip ahead. Then I'm going to go over like the gear changes and the stat changes and basically how they feel. And then finally I'm just going to show some PvP in the new meta and like compare it to what it looked like, I guess, in the old a bit. So starting off, the patch notes. So this is just on Ashes of Creation website, and I'm pretty much just going to read through this line by line. If you're looking for the short version of this, anyone who has a third wave bundle holder for Alpha 2 Phase 3 is going to be able to start playing on May 1st, but there is going to be a fresh start server, and then there's also going to be a merging of the two existing servers. So I know at least in our guild is probably, like almost certainly, going to be playing on the fresh start server, but our old characters are still going to exist on the live server that's currently out. And then when the August 4th comes around, there will be another like full wipe, and all of the currently existing characters on the new fresh start, and I assume the Vira and Lineth server merge, are just going to be moved to the PTR. That's just the summary of the patch notes, but let me read through this here. Phase 2 extension now through August 4th, 2025. We've made the decision to extend Alpha 2 Phase 2 through August 4th, 2025. This extension allows our team to make meaningful progress on several key initiatives for the launch of Alpha 2 Phase 3, including implementing and testing dynamic gridding, which is critical for improving gameplay performance in densely populated areas. Dynamic gridding is basically they change the server workers, which is like what hosts all the characters, dynamically, so that like normally a server worker holds like, let's say, like 400 people. If like 5,000 people gather in one spot, the server worker will like adjust its boundaries so that those 5,000 people are split up so that performance stays ideal. Next is introduction to our second starting area in the Anvils and a revamp of our questing and first-time user experience systems. Honestly, I do not know where the Anvils will be. My guess is it's going to be like maybe the Jundark or the like the tropics. Like maybe there's an area above them. That's where I would personally guess, because the dwarves are kind of like the tropics there, and then there's also the mountain region to the southwest, so maybe that's their home, but who knows. Moving on, ongoing server worker and realm performance improvements, better scalability. I guess they're going to Unreal Engine 5.5, which has upgrades for them. Economy and stat balancing efforts over the next 3 months, and then 3 new races: the Pyrai, the Renkai, and the Nikuan races, with all armor sets along our last archetype, the Summoner. Okay, so they're going to be doing the armor design for the Summoner, and that'll be a better Phase 3 start. Alpha 2 Phase 3 begins August 4th, 2025. Following the conclusion of... Here, one second, let me turn off my crosshair. You guys don't need to see that this whole time. So following the conclusion of Phase 2, Alpha 2 Phase 3 will begin August 4th, 2025. Next phase will testing, implementing performance improvements as we work on refining the full Alpha experience, testing access. So all users with Alpha 2 access will be able to participate in Phase 3, and then everyone who has Phase 3 access will also be able to participate in Phase 3. Alpha 2 third wave bundle holders will now gain access to the extended Phase 2 period beginning on May 1st as well. So if you bought the third phase bundle, you're still going to be able to play on May 1st like you're originally planning. It's just that the Phase 3 isn't going to start until August. Testing schedule now through August 4th. Testing will continue on a 5-day per week schedule. And then on August 4th, when Phase 3 begins, then they'll do full week. And they do say that during this extended Phase 2 period that there will be a couple of periods where there's full weeks. So just looking at like this calendar here, just like to get a better representation. So right now, the servers run until like midnight Monday, and then they shut off, and then like noon Thursday. So it's more like 3 days off, but you know, Tuesday and Wednesdays are like 100% dead days. Yeah, like 2.5 days basically, with Thursday not starting until like noon or 11. It's not like they start at midnight. So this is what it looks like for the current schedule and what it's planned to look like. There'll probably be a couple of these days where you can just play straight through, but yeah. And then August 4th on Monday, you know, people will probably take off the week, maybe the next Monday, and level up in phase 3 or something, if you're crazy. We are not announcing an end date for Alpha 2, as it is expected to last until the start of beta, when it will become the new PTR. Personally, my guess for Alpha 2 phase, it's going to be at least a year. Hopefully it's 2 years. We'll see what they do. Because they need to finish the continents, they need to finish all the questing. Pretty much when beta starts, when the game is basically done, and they just need to do fine tuning and add in secrets. That's the only thing I would see them waiting for beta for. Wipe, fresh start, and merge notice. That's a lot of words that are flavor text. We will perform a full wipe of all characters and progress at the start of phase 3 on August 4th, 2025. So August 4th, everything gets wiped. So even though phase 3 players can start playing May 1st, everything's just going to get deleted. I would still recommend logging in, you know, configuring your shortcuts, doing the first couple levels, maybe get to like level 8 or like level 12 so that you get access to the top row of talents and you can just try all your abilities out if that's as far as you want to go. In preparation for phase 3, beginning on May 1st, Vira and Lineth servers, which are the two NA servers, are getting merged, and then nodes, mayorships, freeholds, vehicles, cargo, all that stuff is going to be reset. So everything that's in your inventory and your warehouses is going to be preserved, but you'll have to like become a citizen to unlock locked stash tabs, for example. And then, as always, in game you can do /bug, or you can do the forums is the best place to give feedback. Otherwise, sometimes they make Discord threads. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for this. In general, what's the sentiment behind this? At least from like, I guess, a more hardcore perspective. The answer is that yes, it's good that they delete it. The game is not ready for phase 3. Resetting the leveling now to level up to max is basically a waste of time. So it is good that, because there's nothing new to test, like static nodes are still in the game, and the leveling experience from the start to the end is the same. So there's no like beneficial data to be gained. The server workers aren't like, they don't have dynamic gridding yet, so there's no point in stress testing servers that aren't going to exist for launch, right? Yeah, so pretty much all the reasons for why they would want to do a phase 3 don't exist still. So, and in terms of like player experience, it's better for them to delay it. So all around, it's the correct choice. It's just kind of sad because, you know, people were expecting May 1st. I expect a lot of gotcha threads on Reddit and YouTube, etc. about the scam and whatever, but you know, I'd rather it be done right than trying to meet some arbitrary deadlines that they set for themselves. It looks like it is raining in game. I can't really tell though. Let me set this to, something else. Why is it medium? I'm pretty sure I had it set to ultra. Yeah, so the reason why I don't leave everything at ultra. So in game, next is to talk about the gearing. Let me just fix this first. So this is what the game looks like when everything's on ultra. There's like this weird fog that's like overlaying everything. So in game options, I set everything to ultra, and then I go to not shading, shadows. I set that to like medium or low, and that cuts out a lot of the fog. It just makes the game clearer. So right now it is winter, so all the trees are bare. Okay, so gearing. So I'm just gonna go over like my gear and then like my old gear. So what happened with gearing? So they changed things so that strength is basically the same as before. Each strength provides 3 physical power. But as you see, baseline 472. That's a lot. So if you're, I guess we'll start off naked and equip gear as we go. So like you see how I have like more dexterity than I do strength, and like my mentality is a bit higher, and my intelligence and wisdom are the lowest stats. These stat balancing is class dependent, but the difference between it is it doesn't really matter. So baseline, just like with literally nothing on, I have like, why do I have 1.4k rating? That must be from the strength. Yeah, baseline is just the, yeah, whatever. So I have 46 physical power, so that's like 1,416 rating. So that's like about like what, 50 to 60 points per one rating stat. Each of these physical power points is, so you see how it says like 125% physical damage. It's 125% times, of this. So that's how that number is calculated. So this is like the main number that people like calculate everything off. Because with abilities, there is no baseline damage. It's all like percentage scaling based on your armor. So that's that. So increase the amount of physical damage done. So there's a lot of, they expanded the character sheets, but a lot of these are just like dead stats. Like there's no slash damage, pierce. There's no like, there is some bleed damage increases, but they aren't worth using at all ever. So the only stats you really care about are the power, the critical chance, and the power, crit power, and then like the attack speed. Accuracy, so you're pretty much soft capped on accuracy just by existing. When you go to like from like 11 to like 20% just from like built-in power strength from your gear, because like every physical two-handed sword, for example, has power. Every physical one-handed sword has strength on it. I said power, but I meant strength. So yeah, that's like the attributes here. So they're a lot higher to match like the increased scaling. And then let's talk about gear. So let's just talk about like this two-handed sword, for example. No, that's a bad example. Let me pick something else. We'll go with this black feather tunic. So let's look at this black feather tunic. So it is a cloth item. So they changed. Let's talk about defensives real quick since we're here. So built-in defensives, you have like almost 10% built-in just flat mitigation, just purely naked, no armor or anything. And then you also have critical mitigation and critical avoidance. And then you just have like a baseline 10% physical evasion from your dexterity, and then disable duration, and then the duration that you get disabled is also reduced, and the chances to be disabled is also reduced. And then you just have like the built-in block chance, which is 1 strength per point, I believe. Same thing with magic. So let's equip this. So that puts us from 7.9 to 11%. So that's like 2% less magical damage taken, which isn't really notable, but it's there. The strength on the gear also increases our physical mitigation. Sorry, not strength. Yeah, each point of constitution gives 2 armor. So the built-in constitution, just from like basically any chest piece, is going to give you physical armor too. So it doesn't really matter what you wear for armor in terms of heavy and light armor, because every piece basically gives you, both physical and magical. So in terms of like, oh, I'm going to go full heavy, but I'm going to be really weak to magic. I mean, you'll be like maybe 10 to 20% weaker to magic, but it's not notable in any way. Moving on, because this is quite a bit to get through. So what they did is they took the first secondary stat and they multiplied it by like 10 or like 100 or something. I don't know. So this has a whole bunch of physical power rating, and that's basically it. So it's just light armor, physical power. The 5 dexterity is so low that it's basically negligible, that you don't really care about it. So what happened is that like, oh look, this has like physical power rating, this has like dexterity, this has physical crit power rating. The only things that matter is the main stat and then the one that gets boosted. That's kind of what ended up happening with this change. It's like, oh look, it has dexterity and physical critical avoidance. Not really. It kind of is just like heavy armor and has physical power. Like the other stats are so low in comparison that they don't really matter at this time. So that's the gist of it. Things that were good are now bad. Things that were bad are now possibly good. You get the idea. So let's talk about my equipment choices and what these changes mean. So first off, let's just start off with the lifesteal rating, because I guess it's the most spicy thing. So which category is it under? I think it's under healing. Yeah, lifesteal. So with this bow on, my lifesteal rating is at 28.4%, but it's a 25% chance. So what? 0.25 times 28%. So I get about 7% healing based on my damage. So 7%, I mean, it's good if you're going to be taking damage, but your role as a ranger is to be doing damage, and you're trading almost 3k lifesteal rating for like what, 3k crit power or like 3k attack speed or 3k crit. The damage benefit from like a good secondary stat is going to offset that 7% in my opinion, depending on what the stat is. So it's not terrible, but it's, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. It's up to you for how you want to go. If you want to be like a lifesteal heavy, if you want to go for max HP, if you want to go for just pure power and like be a glass cannon, etc. What am I missing? Rings. Oh, I took off my cape. That's really, really bad. Yep, that's bad. I'll have to become a citizen of Winstead then and get a new cape. So we need rings, earrings. Still using the bone ones. Okay, so let's move on. Yep, so the only stat that really matters is the first one. So let's talk about the actual stats themselves. So like I said, let's look at the main attributes. I know we already looked at them. So it says 3 physical power rating. Okay, that's really good. 2 crit power rating. That's super niche, and only if you're building crit is it good. Okay. 2 accuracy rating. You're pretty much already accuracy capped just from this built-in strength, like just equipping basic gear. So like my accuracy rating is like almost at 20% just from equipping 0 accuracy. Okay, so that means that any more strength in terms of accuracy points is pretty much useless. Okay, block mitigation rating. I don't use a shield, that's kind of useless. And then physical disable duration rating. So let's see, what is that giving me? 1,000. So let's look at our defenses and see how much that actually is. Physical disable duration, disable reduction. Yeah, the duration of incoming physical disabling effects. So that's only 845. Disable duration rating. Okay, so I guess that's bugged because it's supposed to be 1063, but it is not. Oh no, here it is, it's this one. So it's only 9%. So I took off that 1000 rating, I'd only get like 10% less CC. So 10% of 4 seconds is like a 0.4 second route. In terms of a 4 second route, it would be 3.6 seconds instead of 4. So it's basically useless. So what, 1, 2, 3 of those stats are pretty much useless. The crit power is useful, but only if you're needing more crit power in your gear, which is kind of low on the current power list standing. So strength is pretty much a dead-ish stat compared to other options. If you want to build power, because I don't think I have any strength-weighted pieces, but actually this is. So physical power rating is like the first stat, so that gets amplified a whole bunch, and then the secondary stat, strength, is only at 53. Normally the secondary stat would be like 5, so it is 10 times bigger, but 53 is a lot less than, 1,400 physical power. So it's basically not worth considering these main stats at all. You pretty much just only go for secondary. If you have to, you can do like health on your belt, or like penetration on your belt, attack speed on your gloves, So if you do need a mix of stats, it's better to like build each stat individually instead of doing the group stat, if that makes sense. And that's pretty much it in terms of main stats versus secondary stats. That's how the waterfall or whatever works, where the first stat gets a giant bump and then the other two stats are basically useless. And then how some stats like that disable duration rating from strength are basically like completely useless. So you see here on the Griffin boots, the first stat is dexterity, so it gets bumped up to 119, but like 119 dexterity is like what, 2, 4, 6, so 6 times 100, it's like 600 useful stats. So I'm getting like 600 useful stats from dexterity when I could be getting like just raw power, which is better compared to these different categories of like crit chance and penetration and attack speed. Like if you need all three of those, like maybe it's worth it because you also get some like evasion rating, but it's only physical evasion rating and only physical disable accuracy. Like those are basically dead stats. So I would say dexterity would be worth it if you're just looking for like secondary stat stacking, but strength right now is not. Moving on. What is the balance between stats? So like I had mentioned before, some stats are basically dead, like block mitigation rating, disable duration evading for physical only. They're not universal. So that means that some level 20 gear is just like completely dead. I'm not going to pull up codex. We're not going super in depth, but that's the gist of it. So what is the problem with this? So you can get a drop like this, like a level 20 piece of gear, and it has 142 mentality as its amplified stat. So you could equip this for its armor value and like the constitution, just so you don't have like an empty slot, but it's not going to like help you. Like this mentality, like you're going to be a little bit tankier, right, with the 2 magic resist, but it's not going to make you do more damage. So there exists a scenario now where, okay, you get a sweet drop, but the secondary stat is so useless that you pretty much you don't actually get stronger for it. So there's a binary of like, okay, these pants are like pretty much useless, or like these pants are like really good. So there's a giant list of like hundreds of items in the game that's been cut down like severely. Like before it's like, oh, you don't have like the best in slot earrings, well at least you have some earrings that aren't so bad. But now it's kind of oh, you don't have the best in slot earrings, wow, those earrings you may as well not even be wearing anything. It gives players a false sense of self-power that they don't actually have. So that's the secondary stats of how some are basically dead, some are useless. So hopefully they do like a rescaling balancing, or like maybe not make so many niche categories or something. I don't know. Moving on, let's talk about what stats are some of the best stats right now. So it's pretty much, you want power to go to a pretty high level, and then you invest in other stats like penetration, attack speed, the crit combo. Just keep in mind that if you go for crit, they're going to take less damage from crits. So it's not actually going to be, 171%, because they're also getting mitigation and they're also getting this. And then you see fully geared, I have almost 19%, almost 20% physical mitigation. And where's the magic one? Magic offense, physical defense, physical offense, magical defense, and like 21% magical defense. So stuff like penetration is really weird, because if you build, so I have 22%, let's say I put on my goblin and I go up to like 40% penetration. Wow, that's a whole bunch, right? So that's gonna help me do a lot of DPS. But if my defense is only 20% and I get rid of 40%, that's like an 8% DPS increase. So like, yeah, that's good, but is it worth having an 8% DPS increase, or would you rather have a sword that increases your max health while also like giving you a little bit less power, and then the shield can like help offset that power? Also, like there's a big lack of energy focuses, and like there's a big lack of like named bow options, for example. So hopefully they add more item types that you can farm, so I'm not stuck using like generic rings. Like there's a named ring that's like actually good with the new stat weights, for example, would be nice. Yeah, that's pretty much it for gear. Overall, how do I feel about it? It is good. They needed to do it. I guess there's one more thing about gear I didn't mention. So level 10 gear versus level 20 gear. So this is level 20 like gray gloves, and you see it has like 96 armor, 763 attack speed. But if we compare it to heroic gloves that are level 10, like the heroic level 10 gloves have less stats than the white level 20 gloves. So, and like, okay, maybe it has more armor because it's heroic, but it has like what, less than 10 armor, like 12 armor more. So it's really, level 10 gear is basically useless because everyone can farm level 20 green named mobs. So you can farm like, and these aren't just like regular level, these are enchanted plus 8 heroic level 10 gloves too, right? It's not like just a baseline level 10. So it's, yeah, it's kind of, it kind of sucks. So from a hardcore player's perspective, you level up, you hit level 10, hit level 20, hit level 25 because you're just bum rushing in like really bad gear. You get to level 25, the nodes are upgrading. Nobody can make level 20 gear, so everyone farms level 20 mobs just for a starter set of gear, and then you start doing like crafting and gathering for a level 10 set of armor. And then with that level 10 set of armor, it's like, okay, you know, maybe it's not that much like before. These level 10 heroic gloves would be like noticeably better than gray level 20 gloves. What people kind of want, so sorry, let me continue with my analogy. So everyone gets their level 20 green set of gear. The towns upgrade to level 3. They build their crafting benches for like the smithy and like the cookhouse. They can do fishing and hunting stuff. Okay, so like level 10 crafting's out. What do we make for our gear? Nothing, because level 20 like green and blues are going to be better than level 10 heroic and like epic, and you know, a legendary level 10 will beat a level 20 of blue. But you know, when journeyman armor crafting comes out, then all, you know, it's not going to be, it's going to way be better like the journeyman stuff is. So that's kind of the problem right now, is that, okay, so the towns hit level 10 crafting. What's everyone going to make? Nothing. So you're just waiting. So it's going to be log in, get your level 20 set of gear, and then do nothing for like a month or maybe half a month until level 20 benches come out, and then you can craft your level 20 gear, because crafting the level 10 gear is useless. If you, I guess, extrapolate this out long term, suppose you hit level 50, right? Like, of course, you're not going to want level 10 or level 20 gear, but what about level 40 gear or 30 gear? It might take like 3 months or something for a node to hit level 6, for example, in XP. So, and then you have to upgrade the bench from, you know, all the way up to like Grandmaster before you can make level 50 gear. So what are people going to be doing? Is everyone going to run around in level 50 green gear for like 6 months until we get the Grandmaster benches, and then someone attacks the node and destroys it, and then the people who have the Grandmaster crafted gear, and then everyone else who can't get it because there's no more benches available? Like, it's gonna be, or like a guild gets it, they craft all their gear on the first day, and then they deconstruct it so no one else can access it. Like, there's some really, like, at least make like the tier below somewhat comparable to the tier above. Like, I'm not asking for anything crazy, but you know, heroic level 8 should be better than like green level 10, for example, at a minimum, I would say, or green level 20 is what I mean. Because it would be cool. It's like, okay, the hardcore guilds are rushing level 10 gear. Like, okay, they're going to be like 10 to 20% stronger than people who are just sitting on level 20 blues and greens. But it's not going to matter enough where a casual person is like, man, I'm really missing out by not making level 10 gear. Just leave that in as like hardcore guild content that like doesn't make them that much stronger. I think that's pretty much it for my gearing rant. Also, there's some stuff where like max health is probably too strong as a defensive, because you saw from before, my HP pool goes from 5,000 to like 2,800. So having max health gear like this iron sword, for example, like you get a lot more tanky by doubling your health pool, and your power doesn't go down by that much when you go for full tankiness either. So it's high enough power to like DPS, because there's going to be diminishing returns. It's hard to go into crit because people have that passive mitigation stuff going on. Attack speed is good, but most of your damage comes from your abilities, and attack speed doesn't exactly reduce the cooldown of your abilities except for scattershot, which is a really niche ranger specific thing. Penetration doesn't actually penetrate that much armor. You're already accuracy capped from passive strength, so you're kind of left in a situation where it's like, okay, so I pretty much just go for power, and then when power is like absolutely useless, then I can like get some attack speed, get some crit chance and power. But even then, this crit chance and power isn't super good, so maybe I just get a little bit of attack speed, a little bit of pen before it starts diminishing returns, and then that's it. And then I just go full tanky defensives, because the more damage that you can soak, that means that it's easier for your clerics to heal you. It means that you're taking damage, so that means that people behind you and around you aren't having to take that damage because people are single target hitting you instead, etc. And the longer you're alive, the more CC you can put out, the more debuffs that can synergize with other people, etc. So it's kind of and the more max health you have, the more that like the Bard Song max health amplifies you, the more valuable that mitigation rating becomes because you have more health to work with, etc. So it's kind of like a compounding defensive that's just scaling way too strong. Yep, and I'm pretty sure anyone who like plays the game and like logs in, like that's pretty common knowledge at this point already. So nothing big secret there. Now for a summary of all of this, I wish that there was a point in making level 10 armor and weapons, even if they're like basically equal to rare level 20 gear. That would be good. And also, I'm sure they're going to do a stat rebalancing, so I'm going to leave it at that. And then I do wish that there were more named mobs for like weird slots where there's just not any named bows. There's not very many rings that are like physical power that have great stats, but there's like a ton of necklaces, a ton of earrings, and then there's like not very many capes that you can name farm either mob. So hopefully they like round out things, specifically like weapons and like energy focuses and like weapon type items, because those are the most important. Overall, it's a good thing that they did it, but we'll see how that works out. They just need to rebalance the stats. The power curve, so as you saw from like a green longbow, well, this is not a great example, but because they're different like item level tiers. I don't know how to phrase that, but so like the power difference between a green level 20 versus a heroic level 20 isn't very big. So they really flattened the progression curve, which is probably for the best. The game feels a lot better, but stuff like enchanting and tempering doesn't feel as great. Let's talk about those two real quick before I move on. I'm pretty much done with this. I've already given the summary like 4 times. So enchanting increases all the stats on an item by 1% is my current understanding. So by getting +8 on these bone earrings, I'm getting like 1 strength, and I'm also getting like, or is it 8 strength? I think, I'm getting, so when you enchant an item, it increases the value by 1%, and it always increases it by a minimum of 1. So normally these earrings have like 2 strength and like maybe like 1 dexterity. So by going +8, I go from like 3 dexterity up to +11 because it's +1, +1, +1. But my physical power, it increases by 1%. So it goes from like, 900, it goes from like 850 to like +9, +9, +9, +9 or something. I don't actually know those step by step. I haven't enchanted since they done the change. So you get like 8 to like maybe 10% more powerful with enchanting. And that's not very much, because of the rating diminishing returns. So like you're actually getting like 6% power. So you're spending like 500 gold to get like 6% power. So like enchanting is pretty much useless until you're already full best in slot gear. Like if you want to, you can pretty much just ignore enchanting. It's pretty much useless at this point. Tempering is a new thing that they added. So for this, I am going to pull up the Ashes Codex website just to like briefly explain it. So we're looking for artesian crafting calculator, and then we're going to make, let's say, we're just going to pick a random item, a bloodshot bow. So currently, the way it works, like let's make a heroic bow. So if you use all heroic mats, it's going to put you at the absolute bare minimum of heroic. And then let's say that you have like 452 rating from the crafter's gear. So when the crafter hits craft, this is the power level it's going to come out at. So what tempering does is it lets you increase the quality up this bar as you continue to temper the item. So if you increase it to like, so let's say we temper it and we get like 50 more stats, then that increases it from like 451 to like 452. If we add like what, a whole bunch of tempering, then it's almost an epic item. So my understanding, I haven't tempered myself, I'm not 100% sure on this mechanic, but my understanding is that tempering lets you like, okay, I can't afford a legendary and like epic is really expensive. So what if we do like, I put in like what, one legendary thread, and then I do like a heroic stealing it to save money. That's like, okay, I'm barely in epic. So this means that I can do like, I can do tempering to boost it from 1632 up to like 1731. So you're spending like all that effort and time like tempering to save yourself from having to get 20 legendary braidwood mats. So it could be interesting. We'll see how tempering works out. It's in the game and it's available to test, but I haven't done it because, you know, I'm doing the fresh start server in like literally a week or less. So I will find out then how tempering goes. Speaking of the fresh start server, I am planning on playing on it. And then I'm also going to be re-rolling from Ranger to Bard, just because it's only 3 months long. I pretty much already understand Ranger, and I think Bard looks like fun, and I think it looks really powerful, so I at least want to try out the class in like a Zerg versus Zerg setting. I've also like understood how all the physical power gearing goes, like as you level up and like what named mobs to farm and stuff, so I would like to look at it from a magical perspective also. So that's gearing, that's stats, that's tempering, that's enchanting. Moving on to the final topic, how does it feel to play Ranger in the current siege? So let's look at what it used to look like. So this is like the node siege that we had. So as you see here, like it's a call was made that we're getting flanked from the left side. Oh, that's just, okay, I wanted to scroll in and out on here, but it doesn't matter. So you can see like there's a giant like wall here of where there's just nobody rendering in. And as I'm like stepping forward, like people are popping in, but there's no nameplates, and I'm taking damage from, I'm assuming, just miscellaneous AoEs. So some of the names pop up as I move forward. I can't see how deep it is, and I don't know how many of these people around me are allies and enemies, so I start to Rain of Death like ahead of time. And then as I step like across whatever like maybe invisible node border here, they start rendering in, and you know, then I start doing damage. And as you see, as I step back across, that second raining arrows like didn't do any damage because I'm in like a different server worker, I believe. But yeah, big numbers, like doing AoE, punishing clumps. People are kind of just standing still in the Zergs, and you can see them like blinking around as they're moving forward. But like rotationally wise and like personally, like I'm not experiencing lag. I'm just seeing everyone else lag around me. So that's kind of like the server client balancing that they did. And I mean, there's not much else to like showcase here. Here's us like going up to take a lumber mill, and then we get rolled shortly afterwards because their whole Zerg comes down to clear the point. So I'm up here at the front of the group. Some people are running by. They're kind of popping in right here in the edge. I throw down an early route right here just because I saw some people coming. I didn't realize how many were coming, but our group is like funneling here instead of, you know, taking the free space around it, whatever. So yeah, just what it looked like for Zerg versus Zerg is you would step up, you would get popped from like full to dead like within a second with just like 1 to 2 crits, 3 crits, and you're just dead. So that's how it used to look like. Like my hits would do like a quarter of people's HP bars. So it was kind of like not fun, I guess I'll call it. Oh, I guess you can only have one VLC media player thing open at a time. So let me open up my other ones here. 1 second. Clips. Let's look at another Zerg versus Zerg since that's what we just did. So this is a like a clipped view. So it's not like this is only like my good plays, so it's not like a full overview. So here you can see their nameplates coming from when they're out of range, like that. So the render distance for nameplates is like 40 meters, but my skills hit at 35 meters. So there's only like a literally like 5 meter notice you get, like, hey, someone's there, which kind of sucks. I would like it to be like 60 meters for nameplates to render in. So they're coming up top. I place down a root as I see them rotating in. I start doing some AoEs. I step forward to take some aggro from them. For some reason, whenever people are rooted, they just stop doing damage. So I knew I was like safe to dance there while they were rooted. Once the root expires, they switch to me. Miss. So right now I'm spam dodging dodge roll to get out of there, and you always want to be like jumping when you're dodge roll. So, and then like you see I'm hitting for like hundreds of damage on auto attacks, and like, you know, I do like a fairly decent crit for like a 200% power ability, and it only chunks like a quarter of their HP. You know, Thundering Shot doesn't even take him down to the full quarter of his HP compared to before. Yeah, and like even that like big 1000 damage crit didn't do like quite that much damage. And then again, they're focusing me because I was in the front line, but I have enough health now and I survive long enough where I can actually like get out and live. So that's a nice change. Like I said, again, like 40 meter range, I don't know who these people all are. I assume they're enemies. So I'm placing a root down in front of them because we're more concerned about getting the caravan out of there. And I know these people are going to walk into it. So the raining death, like I do a double raining death, and like only a couple of people get taken down a quarter of their HP. But I also apply like, you know, bleeding to all these people from the first uncharged scatter shot and then the second charged one. And then they also got the wound stack. So it just feels a lot better to play the game when people don't get popped instantly. And then, you know, as I was in the front line, they focused me, so I dodge roll spam out to get out again. And then, you know, same thing as before. Step up, I do my AoEs, etc. Here I have people in front of me, so I don't have to dodge back right away. And, you know, people like that. This is kind of how it is in like Zerg vs. Zerg, is like people rotate being in front because a lot of people just use B to like spam target whoever's closest to them. I will say that you don't get to have a single target uptime really, so you don't get mana regen a lot from your mark. I didn't have my rejuvenation on myself, it was on the caravan. I should have left it on myself, oh well. But yeah, that's pretty much how it feels right now. It feels pretty good, and that's Zerg versus Zerg. So let's talk about I guess smaller scale. So these are some like just for fun scrims we did internally. We have 1 cleric, 1 bard. I think they have 2 clerics, but it's whatever. So that step up raining death vines, like before that would like chunk us all to like half health, but now it only chunks us like a quarter and puts some debuffs, and the cleric is able to sustain us even like just a single cleric. And I don't win all these, by the way. So I should have been on him, but I target recursion because he's the closest person. So the snipe lands. It's a big crit, so normally this is where you'd want to kill shot because he's half health, but instead I want to thundering shot, and then while the thundering shot is traveling in the air, I do the kill shot, and it lands all at the same time. And I also do salvo, so the kill shot landed, the salvo is going at the same time, so that's like 100 to 0 in like 3 seconds, just solo. And keep in mind, this is with semi-tanky gear and not being like totally optimized, and I also got really lucky with the crit. Like as you saw on my character sheet before, I have really high crit power, but yeah, you can still get like focused down if you stand in front of a group of 4 people like relatively quick, but it's not an instant pop. So I would say it's in a pretty good place right now, small scale like PvP wise. I'm just going to leave this open while I talk about other random stuff as I'm thinking here. Class balance and small scale right now. Ranger is the worst 1v1 class. It does okay if you catch people by surprise because you have like camo as an option. I did a 1v1 versus another ranger yesterday. They rooted me. I was on my mount. I got off. I used camo. They couldn't attack me. I tried to snipe them back, but they line of sight around a rock, etc. So, but a mage will just dump their damage into you. Even if you camo and try to snipe them, they will hold W, and with the increased cast time, because you have less attack speed, they will be able to get in range to knock back your snipe channel from stealth, even without having to blink in. So a mage who knows you're there, like even they will be able to like stop a snipe from happening. Rogues I think are like the 1v1 class. They can beat everyone. They can also beat tanks, but I'm not gonna say how. And then tanks are like the second like best class right now in terms of like 1v1s, because they are extremely tanky. They have a lot of like max percent HP scaling. Some tanks are getting up to over 10,000 health. And let me tell you, when you're hitting for like, as you see the numbers here, like 400s, 300s, when the tank has 10,000 health, they're going to out-sustain you, especially with their max percent like HP shielding options that they have a bit of. And so that's tanks. Nobody's going to win versus them really, at least in 1v1s, or like in small scale, they have pretty good value too, just because of their group shielding. And the more optimized your group is with having more max HP, the more valuable, having tank is. Clerics you can kill clerics, but you need to be using a longbow and stack wounds to 50%. But if the cleric is self-spamming to cleanse themselves, it's going to be rough. You want to save mark until they start doing damage to you so you can start sustaining, but it's in general like not exactly super worth it. So you saw there as I was like damaging Knob, like I didn't do any dent to his HP bar even though I was hitting him for the whole time. So like you kind of want to split the cleric's focus, so you want to like attack multiple targets at the same time. But if you attack a target solo, like see, as you saw there, like me and Vathon were both attacking Freak at the same time. Normally, if I was attacking him solo, there would be no way for me to kill him. So Red Ned chunks him, and then Vathon is throwing fireballs and doing spells at the same time I'm sniping and kill shotting. So in general, you kind of want to like DPS people down in pairs and like split the focus over the raid is my opinion for small scale. Also, like the AoE DPS punish is like less severe than before. But yeah, we win this one. And then moving on, so bards. So in my opinion, bards are like giga busted, like the best Zerg versus Zerg class by far. Between nimble and shielding and like gambit for single target focuses, and then they can mesmerizing dance any melees who do end up diving in, like all these rogues here. We do lose this one, but and then like the bards also can like increase everyone's max HP. Mana is a real problem now in Zerg versus Zerg in like longer term fights, so you have to have bards. Like in my opinion, bard is just the best Zerg versus Zerg like class that you have to have. I mean, you have to have damage, and you have to have clerics because you need healing, but in terms of like what you'd rather have excess of, you can get bards. Like they can still plink out some damage. If they go full damage mode, like they can still like stack up a half HP bar chunk, but if they work with someone else, then they can definitely 2v2 people pretty easily. And then nimble in terms of missing is just absolutely ridiculous. Moving on, mages are still really good because they have their shield, and then they also like just do a pretty good amount of DPS. Like mages have so rangers have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 single target spells that they press. When rangers run out of those 7 single target spells to press, they are just doing single target. So as you see here, like they're completely ignoring me, so I'm just focusing their cleric. But even with all those crits, like I'm just not enough of a threat for them to peel off. Either that or the rest of my raid isn't doing enough damage to their group. It looks like they're all trying to focus one guy instead of splitting damage, but that's whatever. I'm just gonna let this play. So mages are just generally good. They do AoE, like the AoE frozen is like the AoE root. Like people's brains just shut off when they can't move and whenever they're rooted, in terms of doing retaliatory DPS. And mages, bards, tanks, fighters. So I know you guys see a lot of fighter hate. Fighters are still like decent in small, like fighters are really good 1v1. Fighters are like pretty good in like smaller scale, like when there's just a couple of people, especially when they have that second DPS escort. Like you had heard me mention before how 2 people focusing the same person is like a decent amount of kill pressure in this meta, it looks like. But large scale fighters are just bad. Yeah, because like if you remember that clip I had shown earlier with the siege video, also another reason why melee is bad is because if you have bard uppies, you see all those like ground walkers stuck down below, they can't hit you. So everyone basically just gets an AoE like immune because you're flying in the air and none of the melee can re-attack. I don't know what they're going to do for that long term, because like if you have 2 bards and you spend like 20 seconds flying up in the air, extremely super mobile with hyperspeed, moving around, like it just disables half their raid if they are a melee heavy comp, for example. So that's why, you know, if you look at our current comp, we're like all ranged, and then like pretty much only the pugs, which we're just playing with for fun here, are the rogues who are, yeah, playing flavor of the month or whatever. Let's see what else. I mean, that's pretty much it. So right now the game feels really good for PvP. We will see how it looks when people actually optimize, because like, you know, I'm not using a physical power cape. I'm still using just a plain Sunhaven enchanted mitigation one from the old meta. So time to kill is going to go down, or is going to go up as people stack more defensives. I am worried about a bard heavy, extremely high max HP tank meta. So we will see if that comes to pass. I'm still waiting for them to like do a second pass on their rebalancing. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it then. I would say it feels very good. Like doing small scale PvP like this feels good. I don't like how the button presses feel. Like you can't exactly, the clarity of when a target is in and out of range isn't super clear. I'm looking at all these nameplates and I can't, like, look at this. Which one's the mage? Which one's the cleric? Which one's the ranger? Can you tell me? Like, I can see this one's ranger because he has the bow out and he's shooting people. But the rest of these people, like, is this a tank? Is this a rogue? Like, how, you can't tell at a glance what someone else's class is. Like, everyone is just this blacked out silhouette that you're stuck looking at. So everyone is basically just ignoring the characters and they're just focusing on the nameplates. So I hope that they can fix that, because right now all you have to go off of are spell animations and nameplates. Like you don't actually like read the players. Yeah, so I guess since I'm here I will just kill a couple of mobs, but that pretty much concludes the video. In terms of like soloing, things take longer to die, but it is like easier to, they do less damage to you than before, which is good. And also, I don't know if it's a new bug, but for some reason they broke Scattershot, where you have to be in level vertically with them, as you saw that first one miss when it was climbing up the hill. Oh, that target wasn't below half health. So it takes a lot longer for mobs to die, as you remember from my other like ranger showcase video. Like I get a time, it takes longer than 30 seconds just to kill a single mob. But at the same time, it did like no damage to me. And since it lasted so long, I did use up a lot of mana, but I can get a lot of that back just by, with the mark and then rejuvenating mana on myself. Oops, that's not so good. Ideally, you should wait until the target's bleeding before you drop the roots like that. and I'm not doing an optimal DPS rotation here. At the current balancing with ranger skills, it's kind of just push whatever buttons you want. This does 200%, this does 200%, this does like 225%, this does like 250%, this does 300%, but it's so slow to cast that it's basically the same as the other skills. This does 200%, but it does like a little bit more when they're below half health. This does 400%, but it's spread over 3 seconds, so it's more like you're doing like 125% per second. So like I said, this is basically the same arrow skill split over like 5 different buttons, but slightly different like flavor text for what effects it causes. Yeah, so that's how it looks like to solo people in max gear. If you're naked, it's pretty much the same thing. It just takes like an extra like 30 seconds to kill. So leveling solo is going to be a lot slower than before, but it's a lot safer, I guess, and a lot easier. Groups are going to have a lot more AoE uptime. So let me just stop rambling. So that's pretty much it. For the next video, honestly, it's probably just going to be a summary of how the fresh start server went when they redo it. I'm not going super hardcore on that fresh start server. We'll see what the phase 3 people say when they get to join in on the Discord server and stuff. I'll probably just do a summary of that. Maybe I'll do like a little overview of Bard, but it's probably going to be a while for the next video because there's not going to be many new systems. Maybe when I figure out Enchanting, or sorry, not Enchanting, maybe when I figure out Tempering and like Deconstructing, I'll go over that with crafting, but at the same time, it's still in such a developmental stage, and it doesn't matter in terms of in-game currently so much right now that it's not worth the effort of trying to learn until it's in a more polished state. Yep, so that's it. Goodbye.